Welcome into NFL Daily by Chat Sports. I am Tom Downey. On today's video, we're taking a look at the top NFL cut candidates for each team in the AFC. We'll go division by division, beginning with the AFC North. And a name that might not end up being cut, he might retire, Alejandro Villanueva, a very obvious moving on from player. I'll term it that way here for the Baltimore Ravens. We'll do this for each player, their cap hit and their cap savings pre-June 1st and post-June 1st in the few times that actually does apply. $9.25 million cap hit for the guy that was signed as a right tackle, then forced over to the left side. He's aging. The Ravens save $6 million with his release or inevitable retirement, and a lot of buzz that he could end up simply calling it a career instead of continuing to play a very long and successful one, by the way, for Villanueva. Now, we're only going through the AFC cut candidates today because I don't want to make, a 35-minute video. We'll cut them in half. So if you want NFC cut candidates, show me you do. Like the video right now. The Bengals, in need of all of the offensive line help. Well, Trae Waynes is probably going to be gone from that organization. $15.86 million cap hit. There's some rounding there, by the way. The Bengals would save all but $5 million of that, almost $11 million in total, for a high-paid corner who has played in 5 regular season games in 2 years since signing with the Bengals from the Vikings. It's a no-brainer cut right here. Jarvis Landry is next up here. Now, like any good organization, before a team cuts a player, they will try to trade them. I don't know who wants Landry at a very expensive hit this upcoming year. His cap hit for the Browns is around $16.4 million. The savings with the release is just under $15, and the new team would owe roughly the same as the savings. Making matters worse for Landry is that he is coming off his career worst year. Now, injury playing that undoubtedly played a factor in it. So does the bad quarterback play. But even at his best, Landry was a barely 1,000-yard receiver. He's a good slot receiver. I don't think he's worth what the Browns would have to pay him. I expect he gets cut, but there will be interest in him if and when that does go down. Finally, there's Joe Schobert here in the AFC North for the Steelers. Now, he played a lot this past year. He was out there plenty getting reps. $9.72 million cap hit for Schobert. A post-June 1st cut. A move that you can designate a player post-June 1st. It allows you to spread the dead money out over 2 years instead of just all this year, but you can't use that money until after June 1st. Saves you $9.25. That's a lot of money. He's played a ton, but there's a lot of savings to be had here for Pittsburgh as well, after they traded for a late day 3 pick to Jacksonville to bring him into this year's team. Now, I want you guys to do this right now. Head to the comment section and shout out your favorite team, and then name a player you want them to cut. So 2 asks, favorite team and a player you want to cut. This is the pinned comment on today's video. So if the ad break plays, take advantage of it. Head down there and sound off with your favorite team and a guy you don't want on your favorite team anymore. Marcus Cannon, who was actually on our list last year of cut candidates, then the Texans acquired him. $5.2 million cap hit. There's no dead money, so a release would save all of this for Houston. The cap savings, again, $5.2 million. He's 34 years old. He's coming off an injury. It's not a terrible figure to have. Houston overall is in pretty decent shape with their salary cap and their cap hits, but Cannon is the most likely candidate. To the Colts we go, and this one's interesting. Carson Wentz has a $28.29 million cap. All these numbers, by the way, per over the cap. The savings with the cut right now is $13.29 million, so not terrible. There is I think it was about a $5 million roster bonus due for Wentz on March 19th. And given the way the year ended for Indy, there is some angst and disgust with the way that season went down, namely, I believe, from ownership, given how much Frank Reich wanted to have Wentz. There's been plenty of trade rumors on Carson Wentz. I don't know if a team wants to acquire him right now. A trade does have them eat some money. You regret giving up the first-round pick for him, of course, like they were going to make the playoffs, and they did not, after all. Also makes it tricky for the Colts to find a replacement, but if they just want to be done with Wentz, they can do it. It's just complicated to actually do so. So what do you think ends up happening with Wentz this offseason? Type K for they keep him, T for they trade him, or C for they cut him. Sound off in the comments right now. Let's go to the Jags, and I didn't put Myles Jack on here. That's a candidate, but I'd be pretty surprised. Malcolm Brown is my pick. Jacksonville overall, for a team with gobs of cap space, doesn't have that many viable cut candidates. $3 million in savings if they cut Brown, who hasn't done that much in his time in Jacksonville. Janoris Jenkins, Jackrabbit, is next up here, a $10+ million cap hit this year. 6.91, nice in savings if he's cut before June 1st. Decision time might be coming up. A $500,000 roster bonus is due to Jenkins on March 22nd. Could they still cut him after that? Yes, but why would you eat the extra $500,000 if you don't have to? Jenkins was their addition after they cut Adoree Jackson last offseason, and I wasn't that impressed by Jackrabbit. I think the age has really begun to catch up to him. $10 million's a lot, but the real question is, can you acquire a replacement for about the $6.9 million you would save? Possible, but not guaranteed, although maybe you're banking on Caleb Farley being your guy. Folks, NFL jerseys are available for under $90 at chatsports.com/jersey deal. Put that link in the comment section, the description for you as well. Got all these AFC jerseys for under $90 too. Jerry Jeudy. Those guys, of course, are not cut candidates. But the nice thing about Fanatics is you've got jersey assurance. So if you buy one and they get cut, they'll take care of you. And, you could also just get the good players like, Josh Allen and avoid having that issue. Chatsports.com/jersey deal. They are under $90. Tons of official jerseys for whoever you cheer for. Let's head now to the AFC West. In Denver, I didn't have a bunch of great ones. I went with Mike Purcell. You can save all but $1 million if you're going to post-June 1st cut. He's a nice run stopper up the middle, and that's kind of all he does. There's not much pass rush value. You can find replacement-level nose guards at that figure. So not a lot of great names for Denver to cut. I went with Purcell here in the end. The Chiefs, who have already cut Anthony Hitchens, by the way, which is a prime candidate, of course. Frank Clark is next up here, a $26.3 million cap charge this year. The Chiefs, depending on when they cut him, see either 12.7, which they could use freely whenever, or 19.5. They made a post-June 1st cut. That massive cap hit does not reflect his production, and there's been off-the-field issues with Frank Clark, and most concerningly, from an on-field standpoint, the production has dipped each year. 14 TFL, 14 sacks, to 13-8, to 8-6, to 4 and 4.5. That's not very good. That's not what you want out of a guy who's supposed to be your premier pass rusher. So I would be a bit surprised if Clark isn't moved, or, as they could do with any of these players, restructured. The team wants to keep somebody, they can. But they often cut them because they just don't want them anymore. We'll stick with the edges here for the Raiders. Carl Nassib, a $9.65 million cap hit. Post-June 1st cut savings, $8 million. Why would I pay edge for almost $10 million when he had 1.5 sacks last year? I've got Yannick, I've got Max Crosby. Heck, I've got Cleveland Ferrell, who are all better right now than Carl Nassib. If Nassib was like $3 million, I wouldn't even think about cutting him. $10 million, that doesn't make sense. The Raiders, by the way, could also cut both of their former high-paid linebackers. Again, post-June 1st cuts coming into play here. Corey Littleton, Nick Kwiatkowski as well. Who would you cut? CM, CL, or NK? Sound off for me in the comments right now. The last AFC West cut candidate, Brian Bulaga. The Chargers need offensive line help, but at a $14+ million cap hit, almost 11 of which could be saved, I don't see Bulaga coming back after the injury. You could cut him and probably still get him for under $11 million if you wanted to bring him back. Decision time coming up here as well. A $2.5 million roster bonus is due March 20th. If he's not cut by then, I kind of don't think he gets cut at all because, again, why would you cut somebody after eating money you didn't have to pay them? Now, if you guys want consistent NFL free agency, draft, trade, and everything else, updates on the NFL, you've come to the right spot. Hit that big red button and subscribe for free daily videos multiple times every single day right here on Chat Sports. It's youtube.com/ChatSportsTV. AFC East, some names you might not recognize. It was kind of the least sexy group of names, so I put them last. A.J. Klein. Bills save a ton by cutting him. Over $5 million with a $5.58 million cap hit. Roster bonus coming up as well. $700,000 on March 22nd. Klein has played a decent amount for the Buffalo Bills in recent years. That has declined a little bit with the health and emergence of Tremaine Edmonds, of Matt Milano. I don't want to pay, $5 million for 35 tackles. That's not a good investment. I would say Klein ends up getting cut this offseason. The Miami Dolphins, not as many big names as previous years. How about Allen Hurns? $3 million cap hit this year. You save $2.57 for a guy that hasn't played for you in 2 years. That's right. Hurns missed all of this past year with a wrist injury, opted out of 2020, and even when he was playing, it wasn't that great anyway. So I don't see any value for Miami bringing back Allen Hurns. You can find other receivers to not play and be hurt and put up 300-ish yards every year. It's not a good investment. Henry Anderson, who was cut last year by the Jets, barely played for New England. They would save all but $1 million of his $3.68 million cap hit. So I would assume bye-bye for Anderson in New England. And our last AFC cut candidate, Sheldon Rankins. Now, this could be a trade option. He's not that expensive. He is coming off a bit of a down year in New York. $1.25 million of his base salary guarantees, again, on March 22nd, a very popular date for these guaranteed figures, but you save almost $5.5 million with his release. Rankins didn't perform that great for the Jets. There would be interest if he's released, and maybe some trade interest, but I kind of doubt it from that perspective. So I would watch for Rankins to hit the open market not long before free agency gets underway.